Hi, my name's Heather and I'm a first year tutor for CC, and I wanted to share some of my ideas for planning. Just to give you a little background about my experience with CC, this is my 5th year with our community, but it's only my 2nd year actually doing CC, which is a little weird. The first 3 years I was part of CC, I was helping out in the nursery because I knew that I wanted to do CC, and it gave my daughter a chance to get involved with the community and with the kids that were going to be in her class. So fast forward to this year, I was planning to take on the 4-year-olds who I had previously watched in the nursery, but we didn't have enough to support just a 4-year-old class, so it ended up getting switched around. And now I am teaching a class of 4 5-year-olds and 3 4-year-olds, fresh 4-year-olds, I should say. So, and with the exception of my daughter, because my daughter is in my class this year, everybody else is new to CC. So this is their first year. So that gives you kind of an idea of what my class looks like. So now going into actual planning, I'm going to start with cycle 1, week 1, and just go down what we went through. So we started off our class with a little chant that I wanted to set the tone of the day, right? And how it goes, it's like kind of a Texas Roadhouse style. And I taught it to the class. So basically I told them like what I was gonna say, and then I told them what they say. So it's, hey class, and then I told them to say, what's up? And then I say, what are we going to do today? And the kids say back, work with big ideas. And then I say, for what? And then they say, the glory of God. And I do that last part 2 more times. For what? The glory of God. For what? The glory of God. Because I want them to know that even though they're on the smaller end of things and they don't understand things at quite the level that maybe their older siblings do, that they are, with God's help, they're able to work with big ideas. And I think that's really empowering to kids. Sometimes you hear, why are you teaching Latin to 4-year-olds? Well, you know, we believe that they are capable of working with big ideas and they're going to grow into them. This is their first exposure. We don't expect them to know as much as a 6th grader or 4th grader, but we believe that through that constant exposure, that those ideas are going to take root and it's going to produce fruit. So that's how we start off our class. Then we went into timeline. A lot of them have older siblings, so they've been exposed to timeline, but we just went through our community actions, which are a little different than the official ones that I've seen floating around. Ours are a lot easier, which I'm thankful for because actions are kind of hard for me. And then for math, we did caterpillars. So I got these little caterpillars, and they have 15 body segments. So we skip counted the ones 1 through 15, and we did that 7 times, and then we skip counted the 2s for the little legs on the caterpillars, and we did our song for that one. I think this, my daughter loves doing this. This was a rough one for our 4-year-olds who are still learning to count. So this is probably, I sent these home with the kids so they could practice at home, because I think this is something that will be helpful as they practice it. But going forward, I'm going to do something different, just so we can move through it quicker than we were, because we were having to go back and like teach the children, okay, like 1, 2. So these were a little hard. My daughter loves using these for skip counting, and since it has 15 segments, you can use it, you know, all the way through. So these were kind of a probably better at home kind of situation, unless you have older kids who have already done skip counting before and know the numbers really well. This might work well for them. For history, I had these little paper cans that I got at Dollar Tree, and I saw on like the CC app, they had a hand like this. So I made this so we could sing the song and then wiggle the fingers for each one. This one didn't go over so well with my class. Especially the 4-year-olds, it was kind of like we're gonna hit each other, or they were just kind of getting tossed around. So I'm not sure how helpful this was for my age group. Again, older kids might be a different story, but this was a difficult one for our group. Oh, and for the caterpillars, I also made this little guy. I had my the full fact on the tri-board, and then I used this making with do-a-dot markers for the skip counting. So I have the 1s here and the 2s here. So I did that for the skip counting as well. For Latin, this was probably the most popular one, which it was a really simple one. But basically I just took a koosh ball, and when we were talking Latin noun cases, I would say the noun case, and then I would prompt them with the answer as they caught it. So I would say nominative, and I would tell them, now you say subject. And so I prompted them. Now I've done this with my daughter at home too, and with practice she knows when I say nominative, when she catches it, she says subject. So we have 2 weeks for this. Well, technically we have 4 weeks for this. We'll come back to it in the second semester. So this was really popular. So I'm thinking we're gonna bring this into week 2 just to keep the consistency. But during review time, this is what kids were asking to do. So it was just very simple. I tossed the ball to them, they tossed it back to me. And almost all the kids wanted to do it except one. So what we did in that case is we tossed it around the room, and each person would say the different noun cases. So that went over really well. Another one that went over well, I made these grammar blocks. I just got some Melissa and Doug nesting blocks from Target. I think they were $11. And I wrapped them with dry erase contact paper. And I'm also going to use this for music theory when we go through dynamics. You can flip them upside down and throw things in them too. So I think there can be some fun review games for this too. But we did the classifications of living things, and since it starts big, I had them shout and then work down to whisper. And after they built their tower, they got to knock it down, which was really fun. It increased engagement. The kids were really into it. Again, I had one person sit this one out, but overall this was very well liked. Even our quiet kids wanted to get in on this. For English, I did, we had little shakers, little egg shakers, and we did the new grammar to the tune of La Cucaracha, because in our community I was told that that's what they do for essentials. And as tutors, we're trying to work together as much as possible to keep songs as consistent as possible between classes for families, because it can get really confusing when you have 5 kids and each kid is doing learns a different song. So we're trying to work on that. Sometimes it can't always be done, because sometimes you have a tricky tune for older kids that really clicks with them, but you try and teach that to younger kids and the melody is just difficult for them. But for the most part, we're going to try and coordinate to, especially for our big families, so we can have consistency. For geography, we did, I brought in my little table easel, and then I have this pocket chart that I got from Target. I just put this on here, and I color coded our black line master using wet erase markers. And this was a tricky one because, again, I was working with 4-year-olds who are still learning to grasp a pencil or marker, and then I have kids that are almost 6 that have done that before. So what I did is I sang a song that was on CC Connected by Nate Green. It's Cycle 1 Geography, weeks 1 through 12, which is, I think our whole community is going to do that one because it is 1 through 12, and it just lists off the locations. So I sang the song as I was pointing to each location, and they had these little, these were like $6 for $1, I think, at Target. They look like little elephants that they could use to point as I was singing, so I had them point along. And then I had the kids trace Africa, which they were having the younger kids trace Africa, which they were having a hard time with. But one of the moms in there was putting little dots along the outline, like a dot to dot, which really helped a lot. So this is my map for next week because we're going into week 2, so I already prepped my maps. So now all the younger kids, they have their maps outlined in little dots, so they know where to trace. For my older kids, I did have them trace the locations, which got a little rough with Mediterranean Sea. That's a harder one. And then I had any kid that wanted to come up and try and point to the locations on my board, do it with this pointer. So it took a little bit longer, but we have more time week 1 because when we get to review, we don't have as much to review, so I knew we had a little more wiggle room as we work into a routine. And that went over well. Again, it's just something I think when you have different age groups, that's going to take time for us to sort all that out. For science, we're a little bit off everybody. We live in the Midwest, so we decided to bump week 7 up to week 1, which is the nature walk where you look for animals, because getting into November, you're getting into colder weather, which you might not see as many animals out. We're very fortunate. We got to see a frog, a centipede, roly-poly, some flies, and some spiders. So we got to see some animal life there. The older classes, I guess there was a dead deer carcass on our campus, because we're along a highway, so the older kids really got into that. We fortunately did not see that. I don't think that would have went over as well with our class, but the older kids seemed to like it. For fine arts, I found a YouTube tutorial, Art by Allie. And so I introduced them to oils, and then we did a similar project to hers because I didn't want to start off, especially since we had kids that had never done CC before, jumping straight into realistic drawings. I wanted it to be, let's focus on the grammar of creating shapes. So she goes through, she basically divides it up, and I had the kids identify the different shapes in each of the quadrants, and we built a very simple drawing of a caterpillar using the 5 elements of shape. And that went over pretty well as well. And then for review, we didn't have a lot of time left, but we did go outside. I brought some bubbles for the kids to blow. They really enjoyed that. And then I played a song by Jam Campus that goes over the scientific classifications, and we wrapped up there. So going into next week, this is kind of loose right now as I'm still in the planning phase. Timeline, I'm going to keep it community actions, keep it simple. Might do silly voices and things like that, but just want to focus on getting the actions down. For math, so the caterpillars were rough for some of our younger kids, but younger kids love do-a-dots. So this is a very much beloved file off of CC Connected. It's actually, this is not the beloved file. This is me tracing that beloved file to make it black and white, so you can see the do-a-dots better. So next week, I've done 3 so far. I've got to trace over 4. So when we go in to do our math, they can do 3, 6, 9, and sing our song. and hopefully that will go a little better than the caterpillars. We'll see. Somebody asked about laminating. I tried it laminated. It does work. You're not going to see as much of like ink on it. So I think I'm going to stick to printing it out on paper and have it like 7 sheets for each kid. Since it's in black and white, it will be pretty cheap to print, and just go through, and then we'll do the 4s as well, because I really want to create that visual connection between the visual representation of the number and what we're saying. So we're going to try that and see how that goes for week 2. For history, I had other hands for the last 10 commandments. I think we're going to drop that since the hands were a bust for week 1. And if you've listened to the song, you can hear like egg shakers in the background. So the egg shakers went well with the with our English song last week, so we're just going to use our egg shakers there. We're gonna keep the koosh ball for Latin since they liked it, enjoyed it, and it'll just be reinforcing what we did last week. For science, I got these from Target for I think $3, and they're these little mats that you can put on the floor, and I put the name of our grammar, and I'm singing our grammar to head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and kids can hop from one square to another. I also am in the process of making actions. I have like antennae for caterpillars, for animals. I have this for plants, like a plant sprouting up, which I'm gonna keep, because I want this on the head since we're doing head, shoulders, knees, and toes. This kind of like lower, and then at the bottom I'm gonna make like this for a mushroom and keep it low because mushrooms are low to the ground. But I don't know how that's gonna go with the hopping too, so I'm gonna play that by ear. And then our protista, I was going to do like this because it's kind of like this unicellular amoeba type situation from what I've read. And then archaea, I was going to do this because I've heard like archaeas are rods. And then bacteria, I was going to wash hands for bacteria. But that's still in the works. I'm going to practice that with my daughter and see how she does with it to see if we're going to stick to the jumping or the hand motions. Prepositions is really simple. We're just going to do the CC song and the actions really slow. So that one's pretty easy. For geography, this week the locations are a little bit bigger, so I'm probably going to use Lego people to jump from one location to another instead of the little pointers. The reason I used these last week is it gets really tight in Mesopotamia. Euphrates River, Sumer are all really tight together. So I thought this would be a little more precise since I feel like these are spread out more and a little bigger. We can make that work with Lego people. And then we'll do our tracing again. I'll have kids do Africa, and then the younger kids trace Africa, and the older kids do the locations. Fine arts, I'm looking at Art by Allie again because I really enjoyed her tutorial last week, so I'll probably go off of that. And science experiment, again, we're kind of off everybody else. We're doing nature walk with plants. So somebody posted some supplemental material. No, I'm thinking of weeks 3 and 4. So we're going to go outside and look at plants. The one thing I was going to do with that was bring some duct tape and make a duct tape bracelet, and that way they could tape their leaves or flowers or whatever they want to on their duct tape bracelet. We did have nature journals last week, which is kind of hard with younger kids. We had clipboards. Some of them were like my daughter was saying, I don't know how to draw a frog, but I think this week will be a little easier because we can always put the leaf under the paper and do like a impression of it, like and do things like that. So I think this week might go a little easier with that. But yeah, those are the things that worked for us and didn't work. I was gonna mention for skip counting too. I saw on a YouTube channel, The Purple Alphabet. One thing she said, and this is probably better for older kids, if you have these little popper things, she was talking about skip counting with the poppers, like, and doing 2, 4. You know, again, you'll have to have an older kid that's able to and use these to skip count. So that's another thing that you can do for skip counting. But if you have any questions for me, let me know. I'm just getting started in this myself, but I thought it would be fun to document the journey as I go along. I know one of the reasons I love CC is you don't feel like you're doing it all on your own. There's so many resources in your community. And not just in your community, but in the broader CC community. There's so much out there between CC Connected, the CC Parents Facebook page, the CC, for us who are tutors, the CC Tutors Facebook page. There's just so many resources out there and so many ideas to pull from. And I love that because I don't feel like I have to develop everything myself. But as I'm coming up with ideas, I thought I would just share if anyone was interested in using them or could benefit from them, then that's wonderful. I'd love to be part of that community that's just sharing what they're doing. So thank you guys if you've stuck around this long. This is my first video, so I appreciate you sticking with me, and yeah, I'll see you later.